So in this video, we're going to look at the multiplicative property of equality with whole numbers. Oops, not of whole numbers, with whole numbers. Okay, so we have dealt a lot with adding or subtracting a number from both sides of an equation to solve it to get the variable by itself. And so now we're going to deal with multiplying and dividing. So for example, if we're trying to solve the following problems, so we're going to look at the first one here, 2x equals 26. So the important thing to recognize is what is happening here with this number. So this number 2, it's being multiplied times the x, right? So this here is saying 2 times x, right? Or we're multiplying 2 by x. So to undo it, to get rid of the 2, we have to do the opposite operation. And so the opposite operation, if you're not multiplying, you're dividing. So what we're going to do is that, again, we have to remember that equations, whatever we do on the left-hand side of the equation, we have to do on the right-hand side of the equation. So again, here's my line. Whatever I do on the left, I have to do on the right. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And so here, 2 divided by 2, they're going to cancel out. And in this case, they don't cancel out and give me 0 like they did when we were adding them. In this case, they cancel out to be a 1 because 2 divided by 2 is 1. So on this side, we're really getting 1x. And on this side, we're getting 26 divided by 2, which is 13. But remember, we usually don't write 1x. So we usually just write it as x equals 13. And just like before, we can check our answers. So 2 times 13 is equal to, we're checking to see if that's equal to 26. And so is 26 equal to 26? Yep, it definitely is. So let's try another one here. So let me find a good problem. Here we go. So what about x divided by 2 equals 14? So in this case, here is my variable x. And the thing that's happening to the variable x is it's being divided by 2. And so since I'm being divided by 2, to solve this, right, so we're dividing. So what we want to do is we want to multiply both sides by 2. So since I kind of squished stuff in there, let me rewrite this just so we can see what's happening here. So I'm going to multiply the left-hand side of the equation by 2, and then whatever I do on the left side of the equation, I also have to do on the right side of the equation. So I'm also going to multiply the right side of the equation by 2. And so if I do that again, 2 divided by 2, that's 1. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to get 1x. And then 14 times 2 is 28. But again, you don't have to write 1, so it's just x equals 28. And again, I can check my answer. So I want to know, is 28 divided by 2, is that actually equal to 14? And yeah, it definitely is. So let's try a couple more. We'll do like 2 more examples. So here's another one. Y divided by 3 equals 38. And so again, if I look at this problem here, right, I've got y and it's divided by 3. So the thing is that I want to do the opposite of division. The opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply the left-hand side by 3, and I'm going to multiply the right-hand side by 3. And so now the 3's here cancel, and we are just left with y. And then we need 3 times 38. And so I'm just punching that into my calculator because I am not the best at multiplying here. So 3 times 38 is 114. And so again, you can check your answer. So is 114 divided by 3. Does that actually equal 38? And if you double check it, yep, it actually does. So we'll do one more. We find a good one. Here we go. So what about 91 is equal to 7x? So again, if you look here, the 7 times the x that's being multiplied, I want to get the x by itself, so I have to do the opposite of the multiplication. So the opposite of multiplication would be division, and I have to divide both sides by 7. And so if I do that, here they cancel, so we're just left with x, and then 91 divided by 7 is actually 13. And if I check that, right, so we're checking, is 91 actually equal to 7 times 13? And if you check 7 times 13, that's 91. So it does actually work out. Right? You end up with 91. Is 91 equal to 91? Yeah, it definitely is. So the multiplicative property of equality, basically it's the same as the addition one. It's just saying you can do the same thing to both sides of the equation. And we just kind of want to do the opposite operation. So if something's added, we're going to subtract. If something in these cases here, if something is multiplied, whoops, get rid of that. I thought I hit the pointer. If something is multiplied, like here or here, we're going to divide. And if something is divided, like here or here, then we're going to multiply.